Langside and Lynn, in the south side of Glasgow, has a population of around 51,700. It stretches from Queen's Park in the north to Lynn Park in the south and is made up of around 9 different neighbourhoods: Langside, Battlefield, Kings Park, Mount Florida, Cathcart, Sims Hill, Croftfoot, Castlemilk and Kilmarnock. It's home to Scotland's national football stadium, Hampden Park, and one of Glasgow's oldest hospitals, the 120-year-old Victoria Infirmary. Langside and Battlefield are steeped in history. Battlefield Rest, a former tram station and newsagent built in 1915, was once described as the most exotic tram station in Scotland. It became a B-listed building in 1981, escaped a demolition order in 1990, and in 1994 was transformed into an Italian restaurant, which is still trading today. Likewise, the nearby Church in the Hill restaurant is another historic Glasgow building saved from demolition by being put to a secular use instead. Built in 1876 and designed by Alexander Skirving, an apprentice of the famous Glasgow architect Alexander Greek Thomson, Langside Hill Church was the centre of worship for the Free Church of Scotland until 1979. After a brief spell as a branch of Buddha Bar, it reopened in 2007 under the name Church in the Hill, with original features intact. But Cathcart, to the south, is home to one of Glasgow's most intriguing but neglected landmarks. And thanks to the efforts of local woman Mary Teresa Johnson, this monument is now undergoing a long-awaited refurbishment. Said to mark the spot where Mary Queen of Scots watched the Battle of Langside in 1568, the monument had languished vandalised and forgotten in Lynn Park, until Mary Teresa entered it in a nationwide conservation competition run by Bovril, winning a £20,000 facelift for the site. Can you explain what the historical significance is of the site?
It marks the spot where Mary Queen of Scots is meant to have stood and watched the Battle of Langside, but there's also several other sites based around Glasgow that claim to have that. The site was marked, and just because it was marked and left to neglect, that's what made me want to nominate it.
And what's the £20,000 going to do here?
Well, at the moment they started work yesterday, and they're going to build a small wall that'll end up becoming a planter with 4 sections round about it that'll have different flowering heathers that'll flower throughout the year. They're going to clip the trees and maybe take down a couple of them so that you get the view of the city. They're also going to make an accessible path that comes up and to a bench that just sits about there slightly behind the monument, and there's going to be 2 information boards, one explaining the historical significance of it and also one which will be at the monument pointing out the different views and different areas of interest round about.
Further south in Croftfoot, residents are facing a more modern battle, a fight to stop their community being torn apart by rogue landlords and letting agencies. Homeowners have become concerned that an increasing number of unregistered landlords are buying up cheap property, which they then rent out to problem tenants, leading to a rise in antisocial behaviour and the risk of properties falling into disrepair, a pattern already seen in neighbouring Govan Hill. Since December, the Croftfoot Housing Action Group has been meeting once a month here at Croftfoot Primary School to discuss the issue with residents and political representatives. The group has attracted cross-party support from local MPs, MSPs and councillors, including the SNP's Anne McLaughlin. She believes the group is taking the kind of preemptive action now that will prevent a repeat of the downward spiral which produced Govan Hill's infamous Ground Zero.
The types of antisocial behaviour can range from people having all-night parties, several weekends in a row, so it's not just as a one-off, or refusing to move the mess from the garden. I mean, I had one couple came to me after the last meeting and I had offered to help whoever had an individual case, and their garden is shared with fenced down the middle, obviously, with the next door neighbours, and the lady there was absolutely refusing to move all the rubbish and dog dirt and broken glass out of her garden. And so the result is that on the odd occasion when we get a nice summer's day, they can't take the friends round the back because they're so embarrassed by the mess from next door. So it can be something as awful as non-stop partying to something which doesn't seem as bad, but it's quite stressful for somebody who's lived in the area for a long time and taken a lot of pride in their own house and their garden.
Here in Kings Park, the pupils of Kings Park Secondary have been working for the past 2 years, and finally this month they've begun laying the groundwork for a sensory garden. It was the Friends of Kings Park, a local group, which originally came up with the idea for the garden as a way of getting the younger generation more involved and interested in their local park, and to invest them with a sense of ownership over it. The pupils have spent the past 2 years researching it and designing a garden suitable for people with hearing impairment and sight impairment. This particular plant, which has a velvety surface, was chosen for its appeal to people with sight impairment. The project was initiated by local group, the Friends of Kings Park, which formed in 2007 in an attempt to address community concerns that the park was becoming a no-go area.
Well, the thinking was that the park had become a bit of a no-go area because of antisocial behaviour. So we wanted more of our service groups to come to the park. And we did quite a lot of research with particularly the handicapped schools. And there was obviously a need for this because I've actually done work in handicapped schools. And I know that children just can't sit in school all day. Most afternoons they have to try to go out somewhere. And this would be an ideal place to visit, especially for blind and deaf children. So that was the idea.
Intermediate 1 biology pupils have spent the past couple of years designing the layout and content of the garden, selecting plants and other features to fit with the 4 senses of touch, smell, sound and sight. Claire Harker, an employability officer for Glasgow City Council, helped pupils with their research.
Is that right? These were touchy plants?
So Claire, the pupils have had to do a lot of market research to make this garden happen. Can you tell us a wee bit about that?
Yeah, well, what I helped the pupils to do was to understand that they needed to ask the public what they want in their sensory garden in this public park. So we went round a lot of community groups and schools and asked them really about the senses, about what they thought the senses were and about what they would like to see in a garden. And the results, we put those all together and put that into the basic design for the phase 1 of the garden. It was designed with a whole range of needs, including mental health issues and accessibility issues and age ranges. And also there's certain community groups that are afraid to use the park, really, because of young people hanging about the park. So this was an opportunity for young people to work with older people to get each group to understand each other a wee bit more and come together to build something that hopefully will be a fantastic resource for the community.
Pupils celebrated the completion of the Stage 1 milestone this month with a fun day in Kings Park, attended by local primary, nursery and special school pupils. Subsequent year groups will continue the work, which is expected to be completed within 2 to 3 years. 4th year pupil David MacDonald is just one of its success stories. After working on the garden, the 16-year-old has just applied for an apprenticeship with the Council's Land and Environmental Services Department. So David, what did you enjoy most about working in this project?
Working on how to get people with disabilities to get them into the park and how to work with them, and also learning about different plants and what other plants are needed in a sensory garden. This really did help me for put my name in for the apprenticeship, so it helped a lot.